They were here long before the first European settlers came down the Illinois River. Ooh, I like that. I see a monitor. They were. Turn my mic back on. Can we try that again? Nope. Yes, it's turned on. That's okay. We'll keep going. It's being recorded? Oh, that's so interesting. Well, you all will catch anything that you miss, you get to watch on the recording later. We're going to keep going. All right. This is the ancestral home of the Peoria people. They were here long before the first European settlers came down the Illinois River. And so we take a moment, as we have been asked to do, to honor the Peoria people for who they were and for who they are today. I want to take a moment to thank folks for joining us this morning, whether in person or online. The online folks clearly have the better seat auditorially today, but that's good. It is no small effort to come into a community and try out this new place, these new people, and get connected. So welcome. I invite you to stay after service for coffee and conversation. If you're joining us in person, stay on the Zoom for conversation there as well. And at the moment, please let me also invite you to check your respective devices to set them into worship mode. We understand that some medical devices must need to stay on, so that's okay too. I have a few notes for today. One is that this is after service today will be the chance to de-decorate the sanctuary. We have enjoyed the wonderful decorations that were put up by one of the Thursday covenant groups and also augmented in decorations by people of all ages for our Christmas tree. And now it is time to dismantle the tree and put it back up in the attic. If you ever wanted to know how this tree magically appears and disappears, this is your chance to find out. This is your moment. So come and help if you would. We have tasks for people of all ages to help. A little bit goes a long way. So please come find us. See Jesse after the service. Now, next Sunday is a chance to savor the music that is so much a part of congregational life. We've had some big transitions in our choir staffing and our resources and so on. So we also, if we're going to figure out what's the new plan going forward, it seemed to me like we should have a conversation about this as a congregation. So next Sunday, I want to invite folks, come for the service and also bring a little something for potluck. We'll have a conversation, much like we did about a year ago for other goals. We'll have a conversation about music in worship, in particular after service. Childcare is provided, will be in Fellowship Hall, so please come and join us. Also in 2 weeks, will be a chance to for us to be kind of part of organizing and kind of shaping our world together. We'll join the People's March that's going to be locally in Peoria if you would like to be part of that. And after that, at 1 o'clock, we'll have a program, Finding Your Place in the Resistance. This will be part of our kind of how are different ways that we are active in our world, and there's something for every person to do. Childcare is provided. I think it's a soup and bread potluck. Is that right, Jesse? Okay, soup and bread potluck. So again, see Jesse for that. We'll know more as well. And now, I invite you to turn to our opening hymn, number 349, We Gather Together. It's in the gray hymnal. If you like to have the music, please rise, embody your spirit, and sing out. What? We don't have projectors either. All right, so use the hymnals. The gray hymnals 349. 345? Did I put the wrong number? 349. You know, we're all going to just help each other today. Thank you. We can I invite Jean Jost to offer our opening words. Jean?
Yes. Good morning. Today we're going to hear words from Margaret Weiss, Come Into This Place. Very appropriate because we often talk about coming together in this place, and it's very important to focus on those ideas. Come into this place with your whole self, the parts that are raw and exposed, the part that is beaming with joy, the part that is seeking the truth, as we all do, the new, the possibility. Come into this place, open your heart, lay down your burden, lift up your hope for something new to happen. Come into this place with fellow travelers on our journey. Some faces new, others familiar, and all welcoming you here. Now, to this moment, come, let us worship together.
And now I invite River and Holly to come forward and light our chalice.
This is In the Soft Light of This Flame by Reverend Scott Taylor. In the soft light of this flame, may our lives shimmer anew. May we notice new possibility in those relationships that seem lost. May the turning of year give birth to a dream. May the emerging light pull a new story into view. May what is give way to what may be. May we believe again there is a tale in this world still waiting to be written.
Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Let us enter into the spirit of love as we enter into our time of reflection. During our music for meditation, you are welcome to come forward and light candles within the embrace of the circle of care. Let us enter into our music for meditation. Let there arise among us a spirit of compassion. Let our hearts be warm to the presence of our fellow humans. May our memories be sparked to recall how nothing human is alien to any of us. And in this hour of quiet reflection, may we be summoned to recognize our own pain, the pain of others, to offer kind hearts and willing hands to the service of the Spirit and the human search for meaning. This is the time for the sharing of joys and sorrows in the congregation. We offer our congratulations to Jordan Thomas, who's graduated with an associate's degree from ICC and has been accepted to Eureka College in the spring. She will be majoring in environmental science. Congratulations, Jordan. We wish Jerry Davis a very happy birthday. Jerry will turn 90 on January 9th. Please join us next Sunday, the 12th, during coffee hour to celebrate the birthday a bit. This will be wonderful. I want to take a moment to recognize those who are facing health concerns of their own or of people in their lives. Let us include all who need wishes for health and recovery into our circle of care. I want to offer a note of sorrow. I just heard this morning about the death of Paul Hodge, who's someone who's been connected with this congregation and was shared around in the community. And he was someone who came actually to Christmas Eve only just a little while ago. It sounded like he wasn't feeling very well. We offer our condolences to all of Paul's family and friends and all who knew him. And in our larger world, we are mourning the death of a life well lived. President Jimmy Carter died last Sunday at the age of 100. And I think we'll just offer a collective note of well done, good, and faithful servant. May we carry forward the generosity and compassion and practical goodness by which he conducted his life. And not an unrelated note, this week the city of Peoria is enacting a ban on camping on city property. Lula NFP has been getting unhoused folks into hotels so they can be out of the cold and not risk being fined by the city. Hotels are a limited option because Lula depends on volunteers and donations. May we take a note from President Carter and build options instead of causing further suffering. Let us take one more moment of shared quiet. Let this circle expand to include all the names and milestones, the joys and the sorrows that are with us, whether spoken or silent. Let us take one more moment to hold all that is with us in the quiet together. And I invite you to breathe and pause. Amen. Shalom. Shalom. And namaste. And now I invite Jesse forward for the story today.
Before I get started, I do not have as practiced of a preacher's voice. So if any of our younger visitors or anybody who really wants to make sure they hear the story would like to come forward, fill in the front pew or the row of red chairs, you're welcome to do that now or while I'm telling. Either is fine. Today and this month, we'll be talking about stories. And my story today is about a storyteller. Once upon a time, long, long ago, in a small village, lived an old woman known as the storyteller. She had been a part of that village for many, many years. But that was not where she had come from. It didn't matter, though. All who lived there loved her. They sought her out because she was known to have the best stories in all the land. She had a story for everything. Stories for times of joy, of sorrow, of triumph. Stories for when you were hurt or excited. Stories that taught about love, that shared wisdom of what to do when you could not know. Every night, the storyteller would light her fire and wait for folks to join her. And every night they did. They came one at a time or in groups, and they asked for the stories they needed. When she was done, the villagers felt their hearts full and their souls soothed, and they asked, "How can we repay you?" She said, "With your stories. Tell me your stories." But the villagers rarely did. They were worried, afraid they would be ridiculed or made fun of. But one day, a young man whose heart was burdened by a painful past asked the storyteller for a tale to help him feel better. The storyteller smiled and said, "The story you need to hear is your own. Tell your story. Though it is heavy, it holds the key to your healing." And slowly, the young man shared his tale of loss. Sometimes his voice quivered, but he continued to tell his tale. The storyteller listened, her eyes reflecting a deep understanding. And the villagers slowly began to gather around. Storyteller said, "Come, sit." And soon, when the young man finished, there was a circle of friends around him. And the storyteller shared her story of loss and pain, of what brought her to that village. And when she was done, another villager shared their story, and then another and another. And as the night went on and the fire burned, they all began to know they were not alone in their pain. Others had been here before them. They could comfort and support one another. And the next morning, when the village woke, the storyteller had moved on. She left a note saying, "You don't need me anymore. You have one another. And together you have more stories than you will ever need." So from that day on, the villagers took turns at night telling their stories and others that they knew around the fire, sharing times of joy, times of sorrow, of triumph and loss, sharing of themselves. I wonder what this story wants to teach us. I wonder what stories you will tell and what stories you will learn from. The kids and volunteers are invited to join me in religious education.
Our congregations are made possible. Our work is made possible by all that we offer, by all that we give, by all that we receive in our work together and in our commitment to our values and to our mission. And so, in that spirit, we take a moment to recognize the preciousness of the act of giving in our collection during the service. I want to offer a note of how dear it is, having been around a couple of different congregations in the last little while, how much it makes a difference to keep creating community, to keep being a place where people can find one another year after year after year. We also give into our community a bit of the abundance that we receive. We have a share the plate practice. Half of the undesignated collection from our plate goes to a particular recipient of a given month who is doing really good local work. And in this case, our recipient for January is Lula NFP. They are doing wonderful work as simply relying on volunteers and donations to care for our unhoused neighbors, some of our most vulnerable people in our community in Peoria. So providing hand warmers, providing safe places for people to go, getting them set up as best they can with networks to find more regular housing, and much, much more. So thank you for being so generous in this moment in all that we do, and for giving a little bit to offer for our Share the Plate recipient as well. Please indicate your donation on the envelope or go to the QR code in the order of service to make a donation there. And now I invite the ushers to please come forward. And I invite Holly Green forward for our reading.
Today is an Adventure by Reverend Bob Janice Dillon. Today is an adventure. Every day is an adventure. It begins with the earth turning to reveal the sun, a ball of flame almost millions miles across that we have known throughout our whole lives and the lives of every earth creature who has ever lived. The adventure of the day begins with the blood of life flowing through our arteries and capillaries, with the breath of life connecting us with the trees in mutual wonder and uplifting joy. And the day progresses through sorrows and disappointments, snatches of good luck, with 5-year conversations continued with old friends, and a new hello to the fellow traveler on the sidewalk. Is this not all an adventure, companions? Do we not travel through time and space and through the electric galaxy of emotions, swirling in the space of our minds? Is this not a desperately exciting opportunity for the world to happen and us to care about it? Is not this whole story, is not every blink of our eyes a miracle?
Please rise and body your spirit for our hymn number 1007 in the teal hymnal. There's a river flowing in my soul. Please be seated. So let me give away the sermon right from the beginning with a theme of story. We have an opportunity to define and equip ourselves to understand what is true, who we are, what we value. And our social, economic, and political context will seek to challenge how we define ourselves in the next several years and may lay some foundation that will last far longer, including attempting to negate the humanity of those who are people of color, Black, Indigenous, those who can't afford health care, those who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, questioning, queer, intersex, asexual, and two-spirit, and more. We need to remember who we are, whose we are, and what we value. It seems that this is a moment to connect with how we do that in our lives in all the ways. Some of you might have heard me say in other moments that I think one of our human superpowers is naming, is declaring, is defining, is letting be, breathe into existence that which is precious and powerful. And I think related and expanding on that is this notion of story, this power of story, of talking about our existence, is a process of encountering, defining, and redefining reality. Story coming to us from our own present lives, but also being received down the ages in scripture, in oral tradition, in so many forms. And the power of story coming forth in ways we don't expect, unknown ways, implicit ways. Stories that are not told have as much power as those that are, for example. So I want to make sure in this time, in this first Sunday of the new year, that we start with a sense of our power and how that is grounded in love. As the year begins, I want us to remember what has shaped us, what continues to shape us. And I wanted to begin in part by talking about story with one, regardless of whatever comes, I'm going to start with some cozy. I'm going to start with something familiar. I'm going to start with things that we love. One more moment of being with worlds that have shaped us and that have really been beloved into our lives. It could be poetry. For example, you have Emily Dickinson. The simplicity of the line of hope is a thing with feathers that perches in my soul. It can be that small. And with that phrase, she creates a whole world and creature to wonder about for hope and to connect with our own hearts. I certainly was thinking about books, and I invite you in this moment, make good use of the order of service, and if something comes to mind, write it down, because that's what the white space is meant for. I was thinking about some beloved worlds that I explored in the past, about Anne McCaffrey's dragons and space travel and teleportation, about C.S. Lewis taking us through the wardrobe and into the chronicles of Narnia, of the juvenile mysteries I lived in, of the previous generation with Trixie Belden and the Happy Hollisters. I was thinking about the cosmology and time ripples of Madeleine L'Engle's A Wrinkle in Time quintet. It's not just one book, it's not just 3 books, it's many books. For me, it was also thinking about the weird and sometimes disturbing but mind-broadening world of Ray Bradbury and his Martians that were in fact much like us. But the power of story is not simply in the book, right? It's in form, it's in visual cues. Right now in the Riverfront Museum, we have the wonderful world of Jim Henson, for example. Sesame Street, The Muppets, the movie Labyrinth, and how those were reflections of our conversations in the world. and an education and an introduction to the world, but also a critique and a little satire and some poking fun. I'm really enjoying helping my children's social education with the Muppets and the Muppet Show. What a gift to be able to go to see the work of Jim Henson. Today is the last day of the exhibit. I will just say it will be very crowded, but it is worth seeing. The technical development of his work is fascinating by itself. It is so deeply based, his work, in love and joy and discovery. And yes, you can see Bert and Ernie there as well. It occurred to me in the story form, I can't capture all of it, but it occurred to me that one of the pieces of forms should be about music as well. That the stories that I heard, that familiarity, that coziness, that regularity was also in music. I was someone who grew up listening to, in the Unitarian Universalist Church, no surprise, there was a lot of folk music. So I had a whole big dose of the 60s and the 70s and more. But I also listened to the oldies station in Massachusetts and the classic rock station as well. And that's where I heard some of the powerful stories about race and class and society. I heard Elvis Presley sing In the Ghetto, how he talked about generational trauma in racial and economic oppression. I heard about trans folks from the Kinks singing about Lola and Lou Reed singing On the Wild Side. Those were stories as well. And I heard about heartbreak from Diana Ross. Since you've been gone, all that's left is a band of gold. All that's left of the dreams I hold. Wonderful stories. And there's the real world accounts as well of nature and science and engineering and the aesthetics of art. So much of it on public television. Yay! I learned about how things work with David Macaulay's Castle and Cathedral and Pyramid. I learned about nature from Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. Now there's a reference for you. And the discovery of the natural world. And there are so many more forms in which story comes to us. Again, this is a good moment. If something's come to your mind, by all means, write it down. Stories are for celebration, are for remarking upon the world as it is, as it could be, as a place to ask the big questions. What if? And we spend, it just puts me in awe, the volume and the impact of story in our lives. We spend, it's an invitation to spend so much time with what is wondrous and to recognize how much in just this little list I offered to you, and I'm sure you have a world of your own, how we contain multitudes, how each of us is radical and diverse inside and out. We have whole universes that have intersected our lives, from authors and storytellers and musicians and imagination. The world of story is so deep and so vast. But I recognize also how we are formed by stories that we didn't choose, by stories that may not actually be all that great for us, by those brought to us, imposed on us, especially those in our social conversation. Stories about the condition of our body and its worthiness. Stories about our roles, maybe gender-based, maybe environmentally based, maybe economic based and class, and our ability, physical and mental diversity, whether we are seen as fully human. We have stories about what to feel and what not to feel and what not to act on. We have people telling us what to buy, what to eat, who to be, who to avoid, who should not be allowed in, and how to self medicate when we don't know how to deal with all of these stories. We have stories from our family or the people in our lives about our worth, our health, whether our joy matters, whether our pain matters. My colleague Rod Richards says, some stories are pointed toward discovering truth, and some are specifically meant to obscure truth. Some stories are meant to frame us in a way that fits some other person's story and desire and account. And some stories are meant to put us quite in our place. And thank goodness that there are some, many, in fact, that can help us break that frame. Indigenous poet laureate Joy Harjo says, at some point, we have to understand that we do not need to carry a story that is unbearable. We can observe the story, which is mental, feel the story, which is physical, and let the story go, which is emotional, and then forgive the story, which is spiritual, after which we use the materials of it to build the house of knowledge. I say again, we can observe the story, which is mental, feel the story, which is physical, let the story go, which is emotional, then forgive the story, which is spiritual, after which we use the materials of it to build a house of knowledge. In any given moment, we can become more aware of the layers of stories that are within us and around us and imposed upon us that we encounter in any moment, and decide what to do with all of them, each of them. It is a life's practice. We decide what we would do with the stories that are inside us and what we receive, if it may or may not support us, help us, lead us into liberation, lead us into more love, lead us into becoming more whole as people, partially what we do. What I love about religious community, why I'm a fan of church and will geek out on it anytime, is that we are working with these deep stories. And it's not just my work, but my work and your work. They matter because they intersect. And here is the conversation about what can be discovered when our stories and our unpacking of them, and maybe a little breaking of them, how much the world can be more whole because we do this work and we do it together. It's so important that we take care of this as individuals and as a collective. As Brene Brown reminds us, when we deny our stories and disengage from tough emotions, they don't go away. Instead, they own us, define us. Our job is not to deny the story, but to defy the ending, to rise strong, recognize our story, rumble with the truth until we get to a place where we think, yes, this is what happened. This is my truth. And I will choose how this story ends. Yes, this is what happened. This is my truth. This practice is at the core of a liberal approach to religion, of a liberal church, because we believe and we live that revelation is continuous, that there is no sealed, fixed understanding of the world or of each one of us or of ourselves. We keep being open to new interpretations of what is running through us as a world, what is running through us as information, what is running through us as the possible future. So the work that we engage with in this coming chapter of our society is so much about truth, about discovery, to rediscover, to nurture, not just about revelation, but that nurture trust in ourselves. This is one of the greatest powers of story and its interpretation, is that we can trust ourselves and trust who we are and hold on to that even as it evolves and shifts and takes new forms and finds new expressions, even as we encounter new worlds and new stories and let go of others. So I asked in Facebook, I asked what stories shaped or are shaping you. What have you read or heard or absorbed? And what are you doing with those stories now? And some of you responded and are still grateful for stories heard long ago. I love this one from John Steinbeck, East of Eden. This I believe from East of Eden, that the free, exploring mind of the human individual is the most valuable thing in the world. And this I would fight for, the freedom of the mind to take any direction it wishes, undirected. And this I must fight against any idea or religion or government which limits or destroys the individual. I think this is going someplace where I can remember this and be reminded of this as a mantra again and again in this year. That short paragraph, he is speaking to liberation, free thought, mutual support in the face of oppression, and the worth of it, the worth of our very lives for it. I have been thinking about mortality and choice and the mysteries of existence, still with Ray Bradbury. Some of the conversation in response to my question included what still inspires is playing games together, not for the win, but for the joy and the company and the connection. This is still shaping the stories that show up in the narrative of simply a game. And we're living what also people are doing, are living the instructions of great teachers, including Jesus, of great scripture that is not the same as when one first encountered it way back in a previous chapter of life, but the lessons and the teachings still carry the enduring messages. You know, Jesus is not just Christmas and Easter, Jesus is all year round with justice and compassion and overturning that empire. That is all year round. We pull together so many threads and so many worlds and so many stories in our human existence, each one of us. I have this vision of like all the stories floating in the sanctuary right now, because I'm sure things have come to your minds. We leave behind that which would harm us, that which are in fact not true in our experience, and come together in this moment, sharing with one another. And that sharing creates its own sacred moment because we recognize in that sharing, in that solidarity, in that witness, that it is what we do is so much larger than any one of us, so much larger. To offer witness, to trust ourselves in the ongoing discovery of truth, in the creation of our lives, that we may learn again and again how much we are indeed authors of our lives. So let us go forward in this good work together, in this powerful, never-ending, and expansive work of creating this story. Amen. I invite you to rise, embody your spirit, and join me for our closing hymn, This Little Light of Mine. We got 5 verses we're going to sing out.
We'll extinguish the chalice today with these words from Amy Zuckerman Morgenstern. When we take fire from our chalice, it does not become less, it becomes more. And so we extinguish our chalice, but we take with it its light and warmth with us, multiplying their power by all of our lives and sharing it with the world.
May we have the courage to speak or write the stories within us that need to be told, the stories that make up our lives. May we listen with a loving mind and heart to the stories of others' lives, others here in this church, others in our wider community and our world. Let us choose to care for the stories we teach to our children, remembering that all of our stories have power and that all of our stories are connected, for all of life is one. In the name of all that is sacred in these gathered hearts, may it be so. Our worship is ended. Let our service begin.